The Winged Hussars, Polish Cavalry, Sabaton History 53 official by Sabaton History.
It was the most desperate hour for Sabaton history.
And then, the Winged Hussars arrive.
When the Winged Hussars arrive!
Contemporary spectators of the late 16th century wholeheartedly agreed that they had never seen such fine cavalry before, nor could they indeed compare such splendor to anything else in Europe at the time. On magnificent parade grounds, the Polish kings displayed the grandeur of their hussars, clad in highly decorated Karacena armor with saddles and reins embroidered in gold and precious stones. They rode the finest breeds of horses, donning costumes made of the skins of tigers, leopards, and wolves. They held long lances with large, colorful pennants at the tips, and to top it all off, an awe-inspiring pair of wings that arched from the end of their saddles over their heads, fluttered proudly in the wind. It is no—
Wait a minute. That actually reminds me of Gulul Jaja from Final Fantasy XIV, his attire. But Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail takes place in a clearly, South American kind of locale. That's interesting. I wonder what parallels there are between how the Hussars, how their kit evolved, how their outfits evolved in comparison to stuff taken from South America to make things like Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail and Gulul Jaja's wings, quote unquote.
No wonder that so many romantic tales and a wide array of both true and fictitious legends had been spread around the courts of Europe of these men. The character of the Polish Winged Hussars was in fact a complex hybrid of Western and Eastern culture, coming from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, geographically the largest country in Europe at the time. Originating in the heavily armored knights of the region in medieval times, they incorporated influences from Russia, the Byzantine Empire, and Mongol cavalry initially, and later from the Balkans and the Ottoman Empire. The influence—
When is this? 1700s? I'm trying to actually pin down a date for this. I feel like I missed it. I have next to no knowledge of the Winged Hussars, other than maybe some passive conversation from SCA. So this is incredibly educational, a crash course in them, if you will. And God, I'm already they understand that cool. I'm sorry, this works for you. This worked for you. That worked for you. Why not take the things that work and make something with it? Bam, you get one of the most poster boy cavalry units in all of history for all intents and purposes.
Serbian and Hungarian refugees settling there in the wake of the expanding Ottoman Empire began strongly influencing Polish cavalry in the 16th century. Polish noblemen began creating the new heavy hussar, who was equipped with mail shirts, large helmets, the typical Balkan shields, and long lances. The Transylvanian king Stefan Batory further standardized the hussars, ordering them to drop the shield in favor of a thick breastplate.
Interesting.
The new heavy hussars indeed became units with which to be reckoned. On the battlefield against the Habsburgs, Moldovans, Muscovites, and Swedes, Polish hussars achieved great triumphs over their enemies. However, by the 17th century, the Winged Hussars seemed to be more a product of a bygone age. Most European nations began abandoning the heavy lancers in favor of pike and firearm formations, and a mix of—
there we go. The evolution of the firearm has a direct correlation to how warfare has evolved. How, for instance, we don't have heavy breastplates nowadays because, man, 5.56 just works. Also, cost investment, monetary investment, those kind of things, right? The evolution of the firearm in tandem, parallel to the evolution of warfare, as we know, is actually a very fascinating topic.
Various cavalry units. The experience of the 30 Years' War showed that a new era of massed firepower, like the Swedish brigades of Gustav Adolf, easily countered the direct charge of the Lancers. Was this the end of the Polish Winged Hussars? The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth faced crisis after crisis, fighting invasions from the east, from Tartars and Ukrainian Cossacks, who destroyed many Polish regiments. It seemed like the Winged Hussars were doomed to the dustbin of history. Crown Hetman and later King Jan III Sobieski, however, thought differently.
Cannonballs are coming down from the sky. Janissaries, are you ready to die? We will seek our vengeance eye for an eye.
In the face of the re-emerging threat of the Ottoman Empire's expansion from the Balkans into the heart of Europe, new Hussar regiments were to be raised, reviving the spirit of the Winged Hussars once more. Sobieski called upon all worthy sons of Poland, urging patriotic nobles to voluntarily fight against the Ottoman menace and raise their own troop. The state, in fact, contributed very little in reality, and the noblemen and local leaders had to cover most of the expenses themselves.
This almost seems like the Hussars are a symbol. I mean, obviously they're a military force, but they go hand in hand with being a symbol, right? The concept of this ends up being an idea, a untouchable idea, not, you know, and so if for some, you know, for example, if the Hussars go into battle and, you know, many of them are felled, you end up getting a situation where the idea of the Winged Hussars, the idea of them, the symbol that they represent and that they are, is what can keep people, you know, have people come back into it, to recruit, to be the new generation of Hussars, to instill fear and uncertainty in their enemies, right? It being that symbol has so much power in psychological warfare.
It was advertised as a career investment, though. See, they provided horses, armor, and weapons, and they would serve the king in campaign, and in turn were supposed to recover their investment with war booty and lucrative state offices granted by the monarchy. The men accepted into Hussars would make a contract where it would take them up to 2.5 years to pay off their arms and weapons, and if they survived that long, they would earn themselves money and prestige. It was a complex, flawed system, but for the time it worked. The typical Hussars wore large protective helmets, often embellished with ostrich feathers. They were equipped with Hungarian-style sabers or Polish straight swords and protected by a lobster-style breastplate engraved with religious imagery. Now, everyone is, of course, more interested in the history of the wings. Historians still argue, though, about the exact use of the wings. By the 17th century, they were usually mounted on the back of the saddle, but the argument is whether they were actually worn in battle or were just for show, like the embroidered saddles and decorated swords, or the expensive bows, which were in turn exchanged for wheellock pistols when on campaign.
Right.
Sadly, we are missing contemporary battle accounts in that regard. But historians in favor of the battlefield theory emphasize that the wings were carried like the leopard skins into battle to frighten not just the enemy, but also their horses, easily affected by unusual sights.
Yeah.
They would come down on their enemies like predatory pegasi. Humor me, okay? Predatory pegasi. That's what they did.
I love it. No, and I mean, that would totally make sense. Obviously, I'm not a historian in any aspect. Obviously, I am just, you know, cool, crash course in the concept, right? I mean, that would make sense to just, oh, dear God, oh, it's just a cavalryman. Oh, dear God, that cavalryman has wings. Oh, no, the Winged Hussars have arrived. Like, that logic in sequence is why I'm a fan of that. I like this. I actually love it.
The actual important symbol of the Polish Hussar in the field, however, was his lance. Over 5 meters long,
Goddamn.
16 feet, the Polish lance was clearly a one-use weapon. It was made out of light wood, usually pine or fir, and hollowed in parts to make it even lighter. This was fitting for the Hussar style of fighting. It was often said that the Hussars were only good for one day of fighting, but that one day would be the decisive one.
Huh?
And such a day came in the year 1683. In July, the Ottoman army had once again marched northwards, threatening the Habsburg realms and the city of Vienna. And
Stop me if you've heard this before. The Ottomans arrived. Got them.
estimated 170,000 Ottoman troops lay siege to Vienna, easily outnumbering the mere 16,000 regular defenders. But despite the clear disparity of forces, the Viennese defenders held out, defying the Ottoman guns for weeks. That heroic last stand, however, could not last forever, as food supplies and the strength of the defending soldiers and citizens began to run out.
I saw, so sideways, like, tangent that actually pulls back into this. I was watching Once Upon a Time a Zelda theory on, like, the Deku versus the Hylians, and it was just a straight up just military, like, conflict. And I'm like, so you're not going to, in any way, shape, or form, bring up that the Deku could just, I don't know, block supply lines. They could just starve out the Hylians in their kingdom, in Hyrule Castle, right? Eventually, you can just war of attrition them into starvation. I think people often forget that tactics like that exist. Obviously, the ethical nature of it and the the humane nature of it definitely is something that it gets looked at, right? But I mean, is this not a concept as old as humanity, to cut supply lines to starve out the enemy in that conflict, right? I don't know. Maybe the world in just a different way. I mean, that's one of those things I'm like, yeah, no, this exists. You could absolutely do that. Block supply lines, starve out the enemy in their fortress. They can only eat so much before they just go, nah, bro.
On the 6th of September, Sobieski crossed the Danube north of Vienna with a force 20,000 strong. He would honor his promise to the Holy League to fight the Ottoman menace once more. At the same time, a large Holy Roman Imperial force under Charles of Lorraine was marching south as well.
Holy Roman... But this is 1690. This is why they say the fall of the Roman Empire is often debated, isn't it? This is like what we have, the whole rise and fall of the Roman Empire, which is an entire like volumes of series of volumes, right? So, oh my God, yeah, that's the one.
They would unite their forces under the command of the Polish king, and among his men marched the Polish Winged Hussars. By this time, Ottoman sappers had come dangerously close to opening up a breach for the Ottoman troops to take the city by storm. Digging tunnels beneath the walls and filling them with explosives was quite literally a burning fuse under the city. The Ottomans would eventually be successful, despite the valiant resistance of Vienna's inhabitants, and it seemed their fate was already decided. But then, one day, on the far-off horizon, the Winged Hussars arrived.
And the Winged Hussars arrive, coming down the mountainside. And the Winged Hussars arrive, coming down, they turn the tide.
On September 12th, King Jan Sobieski and his Winged Hussars came to the relief of the besieged city. The battle had begun the day before. The troops of Charles of Lorraine were already punching hard into the Ottoman lines.
Wait a minute. I thought somebody was joking in chat, I thought. Something about, stop me if you've heard this before. A great white city besieged by a great horde from a wasteland. City defenders are saved by a massive cavalry charge. Is this where Tolkien got the inspiration for the Battle of Pelennor Fields? Is this, like, unironically the actual source material? Like how the Dead Marshes in Tolkien was his experience in I always forget the name of the battle. It's one of the battles he was involved in World War I believe. And that's often cited as the Dead Marshes. I love it. I love how things can potentially connect.
The Ottomans launched several counterattacks, though, preventing the Imperials from breaking through. Ottoman sappers hurriedly were filling new tunnels with explosives, trying to blow the walls, but at the last minute, these were found and destroyed by the Viennese defenders. The next day, as the Polish infantry joined the Imperials, the Winged Hussars moved through the cover of the woods, approaching the main Turkish redoubt. Preparing for the decisive strike, the deeply Catholic Hussars held a holy mass, steeled themselves with prayer, and their traditional battle hymn, Bogorodzica, Mother of God. By 4 p.m, together with a group of Imperial horsemen, the Polish cavalry stormed down the hill. In all, they were 18,000 strong, probably the largest cavalry charge in European history. Sobieski personally led the attack at the head of his Winged Hussars. At about 100 paces, the real charge began. At 50 paces, their horses were driven to full gallop as the Winged Hussars lowered their lances and smashed into the terrified defenders. Lances splintered. Horses trampled men beneath them. Soldiers were crushed and thrown aside. The sight of impaled men before them terrified the men in the rearward units, and their morale crumbled. Most of the Ottoman troops were not protected by plate armor, and their formations broke apart. Some winged...
That's actually probably why this worked, actually. Or at least it led to, in part, of why this worked. Not being a heavily armored army, being a heavily armored military force. I mean, you are just gonna get ran over. And I mean, this is one of those things that I look at and it's just like I don't know what the actual conversations leading up to this was, but I view it along the lines of, yeah, so you want to just do this? Yeah, we can do this. And then they went out in style. Like, wow.
Hussars dropped their broken lances and reached for the swords and sabers that hung from knots at their wrists. Others took up war hammers or pistols as they drove through the disordered enemy to safety. They regrouped for another charge, wave after wave, into the Ottoman troops, as more troops of the Holy League joined the battle. Vespasian Koszowski, in his Song of Vienna Liberated, describes it so: "No sooner does a hussar lower his lance than a Turk is impaled on its spike, which not only disorders, but terrifies the foe. That blow, which cannot be defended against or deflected, oft transfixing 2 persons at a time. Others flee in eager haste from such sight, like flies in a frenzy." After their decisive victory in the Battle of Vienna, the fame of the Polish Hussars grew once more throughout Europe. The Holy Roman Emperor personally invited them to his court for a demonstration of their skills.
So the Holy Roman Empire is separate from the actual Roman Empire, right? Especially from this time frame. I've heard it's been debated, what is it? Anywhere between the years 400 AD, CE, whatever you want to use, right? Year 400 up through about 1600. There's an argument for when the Roman Empire actually fell. And I am incredibly underread on this topic. This is one of those that, like, dude, this is one of those subjective things, right? Like how there's certain things that that can be argued, right? If somebody approaches you and it's just like, well, I believe that the Roman Empire fell in the year 400 AD or CE, right? Cool, okay, like, you have my attention. What are you basing this on? What is your sources? Do you? I'm assuming you at least have cognizance that the whole rise and fall of the Roman Empire exists, right? That's one of those things that you can have a debate about, right? Which leads into other topics that I've talked about. We're gonna use flat Earth because I can't. God, I don't understand why it's tolerated. I really don't. Where it's like we have empirical evidence that showcases the other side of this, right? Well, you're just wrong, so you're going to just shirk off science, facts, statistics, citations to insert an narrative here, right? Now, if somebody's like, well, the Roman Empire is still alive and well today. Okay, what's your source on that? We can have a discussion on this, but you're gonna have to bring something to the table. The whole thing that I'm trying to get across is it boils down to there are absolutely subjective arguments that you can have, this being one of those, right? You can absolutely have a subjective argument discussion on the subject as long as people are all well read. But there also can still be bad faith arguments where if I was just to say, well, the Roman Empire exists today, it's in, it's in Italy, it's still in Italy. What is your source on that? Anything? Do you have anything to bring to the table, Kip? Well, no, not necessarily, but it would make sense. Okay, then we get to discredit your opinion. Grats. That's how those conversations should work.
The Russian Tsar raised his own 1,000-strong Hussar army under a Polish renegade. Vienna, however, despite being one of the greatest ones, would also be one of the last victories the Hussars achieved. Soon afterward, the Commonwealth, under pressure both from foreign powers and from within, started coming apart. The huge costs of defensive wars contributed to a general financial decline. There were rebellions, and it was hard to really afford the expensive Hussars anymore.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, the Winged Hussars managed to survive well into the 18th century and would be deployed in the Great Northern War. But their decisive role on the battlefield lay behind them. Their imagery, however, survived. and especially in the 19th century, began to re-emerge as a symbol of Polish pride and identity, remembering them from a time when indeed no finer cavalry than the Polish Winged Hussars roamed the battlefields of Europe.
We remember in September, doesn't make the end. Now was green. We made the enemy bleed. And the Winged Hussars arrive. Coming down the mountainside.
Whether or not the Winged Hussars arrived, this is the most requested song of all so far.
So
for
far
this.
for the Sabaton history since we started it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this week actually, it's not this today, but this week actually is 1 year since the channel premiered last February 7th.
What you wanted the most, we saved for the 1 year anniversary.
How many Winged Hussar memes do you think guess how many Sabaton Winged Hussars memes there've been over the ages?
Ages. There's a lot of Sabaton memes about this because it's so easy. Like you can do whatever. Like you say, I was just out walking my dog. And then the Winged Hussars arrived. So there's always opportunity for the Winged Hussars to arrive in your life.
Do you know how the meme started or how?
I think it's just because of the song.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like, when we were working on writing the song and the lyrics, we had this, da 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 da. You know, it's like, that is so clear for. Then the Winged Hussars arrived.
Yeah.
And it was just when we wrote it was damn, this is so perfect. This is the catchiest moment of the album.
You know, it's interesting because we're filming this just after the Sabaton cruise, so this is still 2019 when we're filming this, and you're seeing this in the future. I like that you did two completely different sets. That was really cool. That's really something for the fans.
I mean, on the Sabaton cruise, we always try to do something special because we don't have any big stages there.
Yeah.
We can't use any pyrotechnical effects or anything because it's a ship. And it's a quite small stage and very intimate with the people that are fortunate enough to get a ticket in time because they sell out instantly. But when you were on the ship and everything goes to hell, then the Winged
Hussars. They did. They totally arrived, and it scared the crap out of us because suddenly 18,000 guys on horses turned up, and we're on a boat. So, whoa, boy.
They be everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a new meme when the 18,000 Winged Hussars arrive and
we're on a boat.
The Sabaton cruise.
I took the Sabaton cruise. Like, Hussars, party of 18,000, your table's ready. Hussars.
Now, hear me out. Hear me out. Sabaton does cruise ship, right? Cruise ship show, right? And then from the shoreline, just you see an entire 18,000 person, just like, not necessarily cavalry, but enough people, 18,000 people get together on the shoreline to just have horses, to be there, to engage in the meme. That is peak meme.
Nope, the Winged Hussars have not yet arrived.
But they will.
See what I did there?
All right. This was pretty funny episode.
Yeah.
But it is a great song and it's a great story.
Yeah.
And
the meme's brilliant. It is a great meme, too.
Yeah, the memes have created the legend of the song now.
Well, thank you for today, and thanks for 1 year of Sabaton history.
Yes. Thank you. And please remain supporting it because we want to continue for much longer time.
You see, we really enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
All right. See you next time.
See you.
Let the Winged Hussars arrive. Coming down, they turn the tide.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching this week's episode. And don't forget to subscribe, become Patreon, and click the little bells and everything else that you need to do to become a fully supporter of this channel. Thank you for your support.
What a banger channel, dude. What an absolute banger channel. A couple things. So, Holy Roman Empire was the remnants of West Rome and Byzantium. It was remnants of East Rome. Okay, so this was after post-split Roman Empire. That was a tribute to the Byzantine Empire. Eastern Empire actually has no direct relation to the actual Roman Empire. Interesting. Once again, learning things today. So, yeah, I heard technically the Roman Empire exists. I don't know where. It's like one of those, like, technically it exists in, like, a very specific portion of the world that doesn't recognize that the empire actually fell, but I am underqualified to really speak on that. Titled The Roman Emperor last fell to Austria-Hungarian crown. When it collapsed in 1918, the throne never restored. All claims of any remaining legitimacy of the title went defunct. Fair enough. Kind of like the Aragorn son of Arathorn effect, right? Like last living heir that could reclaim the throne of Gondor and Arnor. Yeah, just like if he was cool. Gondor, Arnor have officially fallen at this point. Oh, man. Rome occupied the majority of Britain, England during the height of its power, which led to the formation of the United Kingdom, aka British Empire. What did the British Empire lead to the United States? Yeah, no, the Roman Empire has roots in like everything, to be fair. Poland resigned the Hussar name. No, 100%. I could see. That's why I say the symbol, and they touched upon it as well, where, oh, yeah, no, and there's people, in the 19th century that were just, it was a symbol of Polish pride, right? Yeah, they're a symbol. U.S. used a variation of the Roman salute named the Bellamy salute for Austrian mustache man adopted. God, he ruined a lot, didn't he? But no, this was awesome. I absolutely love this. So first of all, a lot of people ask, Kip, do you like Sabaton? Oh, 100%. I love Sabaton. You kidding me? I'm very upset that I was deep in work. I actually worked at the financial institution last time they were in Idaho, and I unfortunately had to miss it. So one day, I hope to be able to go to a Sabaton concert. Just one day, be able to do that. Absolutely amazing band, awesome lyrics. One of the other videos that they did mentioned that people try to assign narratives or assign political leanings to them, to which they're just like, bro, we're talking about history. We're making music. Come on now. Which I agree with. Like 100%. And I love history because there's so much you can learn from history. And a lot of that modern tension from current events and stuff, that gets a little bit lesser. I don't necessarily have to worry about, say, Fallujah, right? I did a reaction on Fallujah, citably a very reasonable take on the Fallujah situation, but I can't. Not that I can't. I just choose not to talk about it because there are people from the Fallujah event that are in modern situations, and thus then you start getting into weird things. But no, love Sabaton, love what they do. Definitely recommend that you go check them out. And I don't think a lot of people know that Sabaton History even exists, so you should definitely go over and subscribe to them and like the video 100%. I know that there's claims that people react to them, and it's perfectly fine. In the past, I think I did one, and it got copyright claimed, which is different than a strike, right? Strike is you get 3 strikes in a rolling 90-day period, you're off YouTube, you can't come back, right? You're banned from the platform. Claim is a little bit different. That's like, hey, cool, us as an entity, you're using our content. We want to get paid for using our content, which is completely fair, especially because, literal Sabaton music that is licensed in this. So we'll see what happens. And either way, even if this gets copyright claimed, even if this, as long as this, is seen as respectful, transformative in some capacity, and above all, ends up sending people to what I consider an amazing channel, I've done my job. Thank you everyone for watching. I definitely do appreciate it. Thank you for watching to the end if you did. And I'll see you in the next one.